We have some breaking news to report. The FBI is reopening its investigation into Hillary Clinton's private email server. In a tweet just a short time ago, Congressman Jason Chaffetz wrote, "FBI Director just informed me the FBI has learned of the existence of emails that appear to be pertinent to the investigation. Case reopened." I want to read for you the letter that was received just moments ago into our newsroom from the FBI Director James Comey, and it reads, "In a previous congressional testimony, I referred to the fact that the Federal Bureau of Investigation had completed its investigation of former Secretary Clinton's personal email server. Due to recent developments, I'm writing to supplement my previous testimony. In connection with an unrelated case, the FBI has learned of the existence of emails that appear to be pertinent to the investigation. I'm writing to inform you that the investigative team briefed me on this yesterday, and I agreed that the FBI should take appropriate investigative steps designed to allow investigators to review these emails to determine whether they contain classified information, as well as to assess their importance to our investigation. Although the FBI cannot yet assess whether or not this material may be significant, I cannot predict how long it will take to complete this additional work. I believe it is important to update your committees about our efforts in light of my previous testimony." We are going to be digging into this for the next couple of moments. We're going to try to get Steve Shigaris, our political editor, in front of a camera so we can talk about this. Also, our justice reporter Paula Reed is digging into this, as well as our Homeland Security correspondent Jeff Pegues, all looking into this new sort of bombshell news that the FBI is reopening this investigation. There are a lot of questions here. Is this investigation into the emails that have been released by WikiLeaks? And if so, did the FBI have access to those emails, or are they just learning about them at this moment which they're being released? The question also with regards to WikiLeaks is, who is behind the release of these emails? Is it the Russian government, as has been alleged by the Clinton government, by the Clinton campaign, or some other entity, some other organization behind this? But what we do know right now is that Jason Chaffetz of Utah, who you will recall was instrumental in pursuing Hillary Clinton as part of his work on his committee, the Government Oversight, Government Reform Committee in Congress, you'll recall that she was grilled for 11 hours straight during her testimony to that committee. Let's bring in Jeff Pegues, our Homeland Security correspondent. He's joining me now to talk about this. Jeff, what are you learning?
Well, you know, I've talked to my sources, and they tell me that it's premature to say that this case has been officially reopened. I was told that that's going too far at this point. So what we know is that there are some new emails that have been discovered, and now the FBI is looking into those emails. They're examining those emails to see whether they are pertinent to the investigation. So again, I've been told that it is premature to say that this investigation has been reopened. Vlad?
Yeah, and again, looking at the language here, Jeff, and this is just coming into us, I don't see the word reopen. I see FBI should take appropriate investigative steps designed to allow investigators to review these emails to determine whether they contain classified information.
Well, sure. This is, you know, obviously there's a lot of attention around this case, but in any case that the FBI investigates, they take, you know, when you open investigation, that's a big deal for them. And so from what I'm being told is they are not at that point yet where they have decided to reopen this investigation into the private email server. They're just looking at what they have, and they would be remiss if they didn't do that. And so there are some new emails, a new batch of emails, if you will, that has now come to their attention, and so they are looking at that. Now, we're told that these emails that have been discovered are related to another case. Now, I asked my sources, well, what is this case? Was it maybe perhaps the revelation from WikiLeaks with some of these John Podesta emails? I was told that that is not the case, that there is another unrelated case that they were looking at, and that's where these emails were discovered. Now, we're getting this information relatively, you know, basically as we speak, and so we're still trying to sort through exactly what this is. The FBI is not commenting officially right now, but again, we have sources who say that it is premature to say that this investigation into the private email server has been reopened.
And Jeff, again, so our viewers understand, with your point, it does say in Director Comey's letter here that it's in connection with an unrelated case. And just again to point out that words do matter, nowhere in this letter from James Comey does it say that they've reopened the investigation. But I want to share this with our viewers right now. We've just received a statement from the House Judiciary Committee Chairman Bob Goodlatte. He's a Republican in Virginia. He says, quote, the FBI's decision to reopen its investigation into Secretary Clinton reinforces what the House Judiciary Committee has been saying for months. The more we learn about Secretary Clinton's use of a private email server, the clearer it becomes that she and her associates committed wrongdoing and jeopardized national security. Now that the FBI has reopened the matter, again, use of that word reopened, it must conduct the investigation with impartiality and thoroughness. The American people deserve no less, and no one should be above the law. And again, just to point out to our viewers that this comes from a Republican congressman. So they're using the language of reopening the investigation, but the FBI has not.
Well, again, Vlad, you know, just to be clear, the FBI has not put out an official statement yet, but we have sources who are telling us that it is premature to say that the investigation has been reopened at this point. I know that we are hearing that from some Republican members of Congress, but we are not, at this point at least, hearing that from our law enforcement sources. They say that what they are doing with these emails, it's not at that point yet. Could that change? Perhaps. But what we're told, and we've been told this by our law enforcement sources, that the investigation has not been reopened and that it is premature to say that at this point.
A very important distinction. Jeff Pegues reporting for us in Washington. Jeff, thank you very much. I want to bring in Steve Shigaris to talk about the political fallout from this. Steve is joining me also from Washington. So, Steve, what's your initial take just in the early stages of this new information coming out from Director Comey?
Well, let's remember, this all goes back to July 5th when James Comey had a news conference and said that they were not going to recommend prosecution of Hillary Clinton on this email situation. They were closing the investigation. And at that point, there were reports that the Clinton campaign folks were high-fiving. They thought this was over with. And as we've seen over the last few months, the email story has not gone anywhere. And I think the people high-fiving now are Republicans on Capitol Hill and the Trump campaign, because despite the language that Jeff is talking about, you're going to see Republicans basically say this is a reopened case. Whether that's factual or not doesn't matter for politics 11 days before the primaries, before the election, because primarily they're just going to talk about this in the context of an FBI investigation. Now, I understand literally what the situation is, and obviously we'll be talking about literally factually what's going on here. But Republicans are going to bludgeon her with this over the next 11 days. This is going to be something that they're going to talk about. Keep in mind the political hot water that Comey found himself in by making the decision that he did back in July, suggesting that the case was closed and he was not going to recommend prosecution. It became an issue on the campaign trail. And in fact, Comey got dragged and the FBI got dragged into this campaign, basically with the suggestion by Republicans that he was playing politics. And so now it works in the Republicans' favor. They're going to try to use this against Hillary Clinton. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how effective this argument is. But this is, you know, everybody talks about October surprises, and we've seen how many October surprises so far this month. This is up there. This is going to be something that Hillary Clinton is going to be dogged by over the next 11 days. And why do I say that? Is because it's not going to be resolved before the election. So we'll see how it affects polling and how it affects voters over the next week and a half.
And Steve, you know, you bring up an interesting point. Donald Trump himself on the campaign trail has raised questions about Director Comey, about the FBI in many instances on the campaign trail. I wonder, though, if in the last instance that they conducted this investigation, they didn't find anything. And as you point out, this is probably not going to be conducted or be officially over and done with before this election. Given that this story, and I'm asking about the political perception here, given that this story has been in the public eye now for, you know, I don't know the exact number of months, but for quite a long time, do you believe, and do the numbers show, that the people that are supporting her are still supporting her despite and regardless of this information or the details about her private email server, or that this could somehow change people who are sort of reluctantly going to the polls for her because they probably don't like Donald Trump, but maybe this is what keeps them away?
Yeah, I mean, the people who are deep supporters of Hillary Clinton are not going to be affected by this story. It's the people there in the middle, right? And it's these undecideds, of which there are very few at this point, but also people who are just really unsure about both of these candidates. I mean, there are reservations that a lot of voters have about both of these candidates in terms of favorability, in terms of honesty, in terms on Trump's side of things, in terms of whether he's ready to be president of the United States or not. But what this does is it really emphasizes her biggest negative, which is that people just don't trust her. And the question is what is next? And if you look at polling and the questions that are asked to voters about her email server, that is a big question. People don't think that that was handled totally thoroughly. They don't feel that all the questions have been answered. They don't feel she's answered all the questions on it. And so now that the FBI is coming out and basically saying, yeah, we still have some unanswered questions on this, even though we closed the case back in July, I just think that's going to be a huge deal here. Now, in terms of Trump and his messaging, keep in mind, after Comey came out with that statement in July, it fed into this narrative that Trump was trying to push, that the system is rigged in favor of Hillary Clinton and longtime politicians. Even the FBI's in on it. That's off the table now, but now he can bring up the idea that the FBI is investigating her again, and all of a sudden it's a different argument on this email story for him.
All right, Steve, stand by.